Welcome to Challenge Accepted if this is the first time you're joining me. And a very special welcome back to those that keep coming back for more food. Knowledge is the nourishment for the mind. Each concept and fact serving as essential ingredients that blend together to create a rich and diverse mental banquet. Just like food provides nourishment for the body, knowledge provides nourishment for the intellect and understanding. Put another way, we must continue to feed our minds. This helps us make informed and smart decisions about the challenges that we face each day and increases our momentum surrounding the goals we want to achieve that will help us keep moving forward toward our respective defined success. I'm hungry. I want more. How about you? I'm Jonah. I'm your person. Let's get to it. When I was writing the content for this show, I found myself all over the place because there is so much to write about when it comes to feeding the mind, body, and soul with good information. I had no intention at this point to use myself as an example for this show, but it seemed to work out. Let me know and ask yourself if you can relate. Before I get started, though, as always, thanks so much for your continued support and very kind words about the show. Just a reminder that you can find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeart, and so many more podcast directories. If you want to support the show in any way, please follow, like, subscribe, share, and or rate directly on the podcast directly, Apple, Spotify, etc. You can also subscribe to my new YouTube channel as well. And just the other day, I signed up for a LinkedIn account, which I'm getting a lot of hits over on that side. But yes, thank you so much and love to you all. So, the other night, my son made a new dish for us. Oh my God, it was so good. I wanted more, even though I was full. The great part of that experience was that I just didn't want more, even though I was full. There was a psychological sensation and feeling I had surrounding the meal. There was positive emotional and mental energy. I'm kind of a nerd for those such things because I found myself in a rare moment of being a bit hyperconscious about it. I decided to pause for a moment to examine why I was feeling this way. Here are my findings. First and foremost, it was made by my son. That was a treat in and of itself. The meal was made with love. My boy was so proud. He had his little chef towel over his shoulder and cleaning up, even though the kitchen was a disaster. The meal was flavorful and had the right amount of spices, spices I'd never had before and was afraid to try in my own cooking sessions. The meal was absolutely memorable. There were so many upsides in how I felt, which is why I'm using this experience as an example of why nourishment for the mind is so important. Before I go into why, let me just say, I'm probably the pickiest eater that you will ever know or meet, but my son nailed it. Please don't judge. I continue to work at it, but my son was able to pull off a very well-rounded meal that was healthy and hearty, that inspired me to continue to keep choosing to work, and sometimes hard, at being better for tomorrow. Not perfect, but between good and great. Trying to be actually perfect is a huge undertaking. I don't recommend it for anyone. Anyhow, that's for another show later in the season. So, being picky has had its challenges in my life. As I mentioned, I'm pretty picky. I'm sure I've missed out on some very tasty meals. And in my short little life on this planet, I've made choices that don't include most like 99% most, of vegetables. Like I said, I'm working on it. But when we get into that state where we know we need to hear something, know something, or try something we choose not to because we don't like it, or it's quote unquote too hard, or worse yet, we create or fabricate something that is truly made up by ourselves, and then we miss a similar nutrient that healthy foods would give us because we've chosen not to go down a path we know is the right way to go. So many of us have made a conscious decision to choose the opposite, or what some would say is the hard way. We might become more unhealthy in our thinking if we don't make different choices. Look, it happens to all of us. And quite frankly, it may continue throughout the rest of our lives. The trick in this whole process is not to strive for perfection and try to get completely rid of this way of thinking. Rather, and I emphasize, we should strive to harness as much of that energy with a challenge accepted mentality. Look, I often have to ask myself, if I know the vegetables are good for me in so many ways, why not just accept it with all of who I am and be happy with the fact that I have the ability to choose to eat more healthy without putting unnecessary negative thoughts or other obstacles in the way? There, I told myself. The point is, if you have opportunities to grow in your knowledge, be deliberate about it. Take it on with the whole heart, with passion, because it's going to come anyway. So rather than think in terms of negativity or, oh my gosh, I have to do this or I have to do that, accept the challenges I keep pointing out in each and every show. Look, speaking of shows, in this show, the intent is to provide real world examples and experiences to perhaps help even just one person that's listening right now. So, thank you for continuing to tune in. Okay, it's going to sound like I'm beating the same drum over and over and over again. One of the foundations of this show is, how is it that I can influence, inspire, or motivate myself, first and foremost, and then all of you listening to the show? How is it that what I'm saying sinks in and becomes part of your DNA, whatever parts you choose to accept? Well, repetition. Repetition is huge and it's key to overcoming obstacles or challenges that come our way, or goals or aspirations, whatever the case might be. So let's ask ourselves, do I make a conscious decision to feed my mind with information that will help me to keep moving positively forward? Or have I had opportunities to get fed in this way and I chose not to, for whatever reason within my control? Look, knowledge isn't just for mental strength, it's for so many things. And sometimes those things play off of each other. And it could create creativity, it could create a spark, any number of things. Anyone who works out knows that you just cannot work on the arms or the abs. You have to work on the whole of the body. This is something my son continuously preaches as a personal trainer. The food wakes us up. It gives us energy, physical energy, mental energy, and your mind then becomes fired up. Whatever the case, let's please keep feeding our minds with more knowledge. Having more knowledge certainly won't hurt. And sorry to keep rambling on, but this is also important. Make sure that the knowledge that you're gaining is credible, it's real, and not from a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. You know what I mean? I think you know what I mean. And then there are the vitamins. I liken vitamins to perhaps reading a book once every 4 months, or my God, my son, who I will have on the show very soon, by the way. He's agreed to come on the show. Um, he reads about 2 to 4 books a month. I asked him, with all that knowledge, when are you going to write a book? He's only 22. Anyhow, vitamins for me is also writing content for this show. I'm constantly opening up all sorts of mental compartments to write well meaning, realistic, reasonable, attained experiences and examples to share with all of you. Here is another way for me to get more vitamins: recalling. The recall of experiences are basic for survival, of course, and in a lot of cases, they're basic for survival. By recalling and staying sharp, using previous experiences to make a choice or decision helps us for future choices and future decisions. So, recalling experiences, I mean, there's no point in putting these experiences away and never using them ever again. We use uh, our past experiences on a daily basis. So, if that's the case, why not do it deliberately? Why not stay sharp? Why not check your mental stock and inventory regularly? When we do, again, we're able to recall things much sooner, much quicker, particularly in circumstances where we need to do that right away. Equally important, your feedback has fed me. Thank you so much for having the courage to share your feedback with me. Um, by the way, I welcome the medicine. This is kind of where the medicine part comes in. Uh, some medicine doesn't taste so good. And quite frankly, most medicine I've ever tried doesn't taste great at all. And honestly, sometimes it's hard to swallow. In my case, the medicine has done well for me and has made me better as a part of this podcast. And once again, your feedback, comments, um, the good, the bad, the ugly, the right, wrong, indifferent, the gray, whatever you want to call it. I welcome feedback. I thrive on feedback. Um, Going to sound weird, but I might even give myself some feedback in a role play, let's say. Well, now it's time to exercise your mind. Well, how do you do that? Start a podcast, for goodness sakes. Look, everyone has a story to tell. How about write a book? Make a goal to read 10 books a year. Put in place choices toward your goals, overcoming that fear, going into it with all of who you are. Well, what is it for you? What are you going to do with all that knowledge? The food, the vitamins, the medicine, and the exercise all play a role in keeping you as physically healthy as possible. Why should the mind be any different? The more you're able to make more informed decisions and choices based on the maximum memory and current information you have, it is more likely that you will make decisions that apply to your goals or your challenges. It doesn't mean you'll always make the correct choices, but the more you exercise, you'll get stronger. You'll get more precise, more purposeful, and more deliberate. You can get this good. With having those traits, you can meet your goals. With knowing that it's good for you, you can feel better about you and achieving what you desire. It has happened. It is happening. It will happen. Will you make it happen for you? By your choice and your power and your decision? Here we are. We're at the end of the show in this episode. If or when you're faced with adversity, when you want more, when the world is against you, when you have an uphill battle, what are you going to think? What are you going to do? How will you stay sharp? What will you choose? Will you crumble under pressure? Will you cave to the naysayers? Or will you choose negativity? Or will you say, challenge accepted? I've got this. I want this. I will do this. My message to you is this: you've got this. Do not relent. You've got this. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming back. Have a great week.